And thank you for joining us on the LHi Group podcast In Those Shoes. Just to reintroduce myself, my name's Melissa. I am one of the senior talent partners here at LHi Group, and today I'm joined by Matt Jebbitt. Thank you so much for making time to speak with us, Matt. We really, really appreciate it. Do you mind giving us initially a bit of an introduction to yourself?
Of course I can. Yeah, thanks, Melissa. Like Melissa and Matt Jebbitt, I'm now Divisional Manager of our DACH business for onshore renewables. Been with the business 5 years now, so which is crazy, isn't it? Like looking back now. But yeah, that's my role at the moment. And yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
5 years, that's gone by really quick. We must have joined around the same time because I'm 5 years
I
in
think so.
January. Yeah.
Yeah,
So the whole concept of the podcast obviously is focused around younger you and the journeys of everyone in the business thus far in their leadership positions and getting an understanding for what it was like to walk in your shoes, hence In Those Shoes, the podcast. Your story is one that Tom, our leader of our Bristol office, speaks about really often. He's always singing your praises. So really excited to get an understanding around what your journey's been like so far and just what your entry point to the business has been like and everything that's happened in between, basically. So to kick us off, as we do with everyone we speak with on the podcast, give me some insight into what your entry point into recruitment was like, and then specifically within LHi.
yeah, nice. So probably like I think I've noticed as well, right? The theme normally is like you normally fall into it, right? I think
Yeah.
it's one of those industries and where it's rare for someone to grow up always wanting to be a recruiter. So you're a footballer or a doctor or something like that, right? But
Yeah.
I think so I was in Bristol University and I was coming to the end of my course, and I think like most people like wondering what's the next step, and I think it's either like, do I go traveling? Like, do I go off and do that piece, or do I look for a career and then do I find a job quite quickly? Because I think there is always like a certain level of pressure. Like, I've done my degree. Now, what do I do? Like, I need to go start earning my own money. Need to go find a flat and all sorts, right? So for me, I actually I was referred into the business to Tom actually, and I remember like literally just before I was finishing my degrees, like coming to the end of it, and I remember going into the office at the time, which was on the other side of Bristol, and it was tiny, like 2x4 little office with one desk in it, and Tom sat
Yeah.
behind it, and I remember interviewing then, and the like. I sort of bought into Tom from the start. Like he obviously took a big gamble, like moving away from his established business, previously at Opus, right, to go and set this
Yeah.
up. And I think as a young graduate, you don't know what you want to do, but I was like,
Yeah.
right, this guy's like onto something. He's clear. I think the attractiveness of working not only within like a startup alongside Tom at the time, like in a small office, but the piece that LHI is a global business and it's got the backing of that well. So it like made me feel kind of comfortable that it's the right choice, like secure choice.
Mhm.
So it's weird seeing it now, right? Like especially the Bristol office, like watching it from like I
Rolling.
remember joining with Liam, and it was me and him and Tom and JT, and now watching it like a big office with 30 people in it. It's yeah, it's been a crazy journey, but yeah, my entry was pretty much that. So I interviewed with Tom. Obviously, back then we had the learning and development. Used to go up to London quite regularly. Also got that in house now, but yeah, I didn't know I wanted to be in recruitment, but I was really impressed by not only the business but also Tom. Right, and I think it was at that time maybe you could be a bit more take a bit more of a risk coming straight out of university. There wasn't too much overheads. There wasn't anything too much to worry about. So yeah, I was pretty happy with the decision. Well, five years later, right? So
Oh,
surely I made a
that
good
is
one.
so great. Yeah, I think it's so exciting when you buy into like your leader, like Tom, and Tom's obviously still with us, and to see how he's grown that business is really
Mm.
exciting. And later on, I'd love to come on to, I guess, what you think we've done that's made you want to stay and have a career with us, because everyone's got so many different answers to that. But before then, like you said, you've been with us for 5 years, you're now divisional manager, super exciting. What have been some of your, I guess, key milestones during that journey through the business? Because we often talk about the first 6 months or your first year and how tough that is coming into recruitment. Like
Yeah.
everyone knows, you kind of come in and most businesses promise you the world, and then you come in and you're like, right, I actually have to work for this. It's not just
Yeah,
handed
100%.
to me. So I'm sure there's been peaks and troughs, but what are some of the things that stand out that you're like, yeah, that was really, really cool, or that's like a key milestone for my own journey?
Yeah, I think like being completely honest, like when we joined, right, we had it's a bit two pronged. Like you have setting up the Piper Maddox brand from scratch. You had setting up the office and making sure that the office was doing really, really well. So not only like we're coming into sort of building and scaling something from completely scratch on an office level, but also a brand level. has its major challenges. I wasn't walking into a warm desk. I didn't have too
Yeah.
much to come into. It took me quite a while to get going within that, and brings its own stresses, right? But like I suppose, like looking at it as an opportunity at that time, and it was something that was attractive to me, was sort of the scale of what we could get to. Like Tom was super passionate when I first joined about like where the business could get to, and I think some of the key milestones, I think when I first started, was I was doing EV charging at the time, just two of us trying to set the UK business up. We hired pretty quickly into that, and then some key milestones for me. I then looked at doing the onshore team alongside JT, so building that up, looking at new technologies, and making sure we're becoming, a well-known recruitment agency or partner to a lot of clients within the UK market. And then I got to a point in my career, and I'll be honest, I was sort of 3 years in at that stage, like getting the business up and running. We're probably about 20 heads in Bristol at the time. Well, I was like, what's my next move? Am I going to go to London? Do I want to do this traveling thing? Like, is there something further abroad for me to have a good opportunity? And I remember having those conversations internally with different people, and the response was always like, look, we can find something for you. Like, what do you want? And like, how do we get you to where you want to get to? Which I think even at my level at that time, what I was C2, C3, and it's like to have people backing you and to listening to you and what do you want out of your career was great. So then, like, having those conversations, I then took the opportunity to open up our DAC offering in the last sort of 2.5 years. But it's been without its challenges, right? You drop in COVID in that space, you drop in like all of these like quite difficult challenges that took a lot out of you personally, but also professionally, right? And it's like you would hope you run into recruitment and you fly through it and you start doing lots of deals. But like the core of probably what I've had to deal with in my last 5 years is just challenge after challenge. Like year after year, there's been something, but the flip side on it, I wouldn't have it any other way, right? Like the rewards on the outside, like watching my team grow now and doing their own deals, and watching the office grow, and seeing the brand open up in Munich and Berlin, and watching that scale. Like I wouldn't swap that for sitting in a comfortable seat doing lots of money, right? So I think that's
Yeah.
that's the other side of it.
I was just going to say, you've definitely that's the harder side of the coin with trying to open up. But I think it'd be really interesting to know, because I think definitely for people who are either coming into recruitment for the first time or potentially are thinking of moving, because we are seeing it so much now. People are wanting to leave the finance space or wanting to leave the tech space to move into clean energy or renewables. And that is something that's picking up speed really quickly. But I'm sure when you first started it, you felt like it wasn't picking up speed. But what would you
Yeah.
say are, and this might be like a bigger question, but like the key learnings you've taken, or what's one thing I guess you maybe would want to go back and tell that younger self when you were constantly starting afresh, or it felt like, okay, building a new thing, because it's hard enough doing that once and then building a market
Yeah.
and starting
Okay.
again?
Cracking question.
Wasn't
This
listening,
so this,
sorry.
yeah, it is a big question, right? And I think it's
Yeah.
down to what you want personally. I think that's always got to be the drive of what you're doing it for. What is that end goal? Like most people walk in and first time in recruitment, it's like I want the car, I want the house, I
Yeah.
want the deposit. It's the same answers, right? But that works, and for some people, it's quite simple. Monetary does drive people, right? And I think those things are still attractive and still, like recruitment's really financially rewarding. But I think like there's so much more to it as a career, and it's like for me, if you're really clear on you don't have to have a 10-year plan, you don't have to have a 5-year plan. It's like, what do you want to get out of this job personally from a development point of view? Where do you want to see yourself, and then all of the other bits like your monetary bits, your house and everything comes off the back of that, right? And I think if you're very clear with yourself on like what I want out of life in the next 5 to 10 years, or where do I want to get to, I think that's the motivation to keep you going, right? Have that big picture of where it can get to, because like I suppose how I always think of recruitment, it develops you in so many different ways, and it's one of those jobs where
2 weeks in,
it's
you're like a new person.
yeah, 5 years in like a new person.
Yeah.
I think every year it's pushing you out of your comfort zone, right? It's you're
Yeah.
always looking to do better, and I think I would struggle working for in a role or for a company where I did become stagnant. As much as sometimes I might kick and scream and don't want to do it, but I think it's always something that I've always carried on my development, like looked at doing more and given the opportunity to do more, and that fits in
Yeah.
with what I want, right? I've got this clear picture when I'm older what I want to do and where I want to be, and I think this is a vehicle to get there, and an enjoyable one as well, right?
Yeah. And did you figure that out before you came into recruitment, or was that something you
No,
figured out when
no,
you
no,
were in
no.
it?
I'm
Yeah.
still figuring it out. Um,
Yeah.
it's a never ending like question, right? I think that's what like, you always talk about like, long-term plans. I think it's just important to focus on like keep it a bit more simple, like what do you want out of the next 3 months, what do you want out of the next year, right? And being clear, is this role suiting, is it making me happy, am I enjoying what I'm doing on a daily basis, am I getting the rewards financially, and am I also getting the rewards from a professional and career development level? And I think for me, if you're getting at least 2 of those boxes ticked, you're going to be pretty happy, right? And I think that's why we get so many people staying here for long term, because the business really values that, like, and it's clear.
Yeah.
Like, look at all of the stories across the business of people being pushed out their comfort zones and making it a success, right? Or the business seeing an opportunity and backing people, and not, you know, backing young people to come in and who haven't got lots of experience or wealth experience to lean on, and giving them the opportunity to step up and do it. And I think that's the essence of why so many people love it here, and why we want to keep, you know, pushing people out of their comfort zones, I suppose.
100%. I love that answer. That's great. And when we speak about, you know, you're given all these opportunities, of course, that comes from your own work ethic and your own, what's the word? Like, you're showing what value you're adding to the business on a cultural and a business perspective. But who has been, I guess, might be seem like an obvious answer, but who would you say has been really significant in your growth throughout your role? Like, whose leadership or who have you taken inspiration from throughout your journey?
I think, like, I remember even when I first started, and like one of the reasons, again, why the business has always got like a philosophy of just pick the phone up and call anyone at any level. I remember that when I first started, like, give Jim a call, and you're like, no chance or whatever. But
You're like, no.
who are you? This new guy started. But that philosophy is I think super important, because you learn from so many different people. Like, even having, like, I've had like 4 or 5 different managers over the 5 years that I've been here, and you can cherry pick bits and pieces from different people, which is great. You know, you've got the obvious ones, right? Like your Toms, your JTs, but it's a wider topic. Like, speaking about Anne-Marie, Jim, Dan Perkins out of Munich, Steve out in Berlin. Like, there's so many people who will have an influence, and that you have just conversations with, or pick up the phone and have that call, and you're constantly learning from different people, and people are willing and wanting to do that. It's not like you're forcing it, like, which I love. Like, even sitting down with like Ben and discussing like what I want to do with my career and where I want to get to. And like, for Ben and all Botty and everyone who started their journey, like, for them leaving London and moving out to US, same as Sam Key, same as you know, Steve going out to Berlin recently, Dan setting up Munich. Like, you're watching people, like, we don't just tell people we do it, they actually do it themselves. And I think that aspect of like following people's shoes and taking that leap of faith, is probably the reason why I did the DAC business, right? I didn't speak the language, I didn't have a clue, I was quite comfortable in what I was doing, but I think it's people sort of paving the way for you to follow in that footstep, and the rewards on the back of it are just great. Like, it's
Yeah.
awesome.
100%. What would you say have been some of your favorite rewards? Has it been like when you go, because I've had a few different podcasts and people, and they're like, I absolutely love the incentive trips because you get to like network with other people in other offices. And then with those relationships, excuse me, you're growing, you're obviously then able to rely on them for advice or getting to know more about their journeys. And other people are like, it's my own professional progression. It's really different for everyone. What would you think it is for yourself?
Trips obviously wicked, like they're always fun. It's a good driver, in terms of like getting on them and networking people, meeting people. It's such a key part of it, especially as we get to a bigger business. Those sort of, when we used to do Christmas parties in London and stuff, it's a bit
Yeah.
less these days. So they are super important. I know Joel and Hammer going on the most recent one was great for them to connect and meet new people. But like, personally for me, like, it's just growing my team and making my team as good as possible. It sounds like, and the office as well, right? I think, like, having so much skin in the game with the last 5 years, going ups and downs through you know, the COVID period, coming out again, it's just like, how far can we go, and how big and how great can we make the office and my team? And that's it, right? I think that's the bit that gets me out of bed every day, and wanting to improve and get, like, watching Joel, Hamid, like, the performances they put in this year, Ethan, like, I would love that. I love it for both of them and all of them, right? And I think just keeping that mantra going for my team, and ensuring we're doing really, really well.
I love that. And that's a perfect diversion because I was just about to ask you, when we were talking about like leadership, it's really great. You've had such strong leadership that you then want to pass on to your team. I think that's an amazing quality to have. What would you say are, I guess, some of the core values of LHi Group that have influenced your own leadership approach? Because again, it's really different for everyone.
It is generally it's just like that younger you philosophy,
Yeah.
right? I think as a leader, I'm someone who's super empathetic, like, likes that sort of personal feeling touch rather than sort of numbers and grinding that out. But it is just like understanding what people want to get out of it, and being honest with people and being upfront. Like, it's a, you know, for me personally, it's always like, how can I make someone's life easier than I can? How can they perform better than I had the opportunity to do like 3-4 years ago, right? And then it's sort of selfish in a way as well, right? Because if they do that, it's going to only make your business better. It's only going to get you better, but also they're going to enjoy it and find that step up a lot easier. So it is just leaving that seat behind you, paving way for people to go and do, phenomenal things that we're starting to do right across the business. You hear it's not just on one person's shoulder to lead the charge and divvy it out after that, right? You've got people who've barely been with the business 5 minutes who are succeeding at like crazy. I could only dream of when I first started, but I think that just shows the evolution of what we're trying to do and how far we're pushing things and pushing people. But I think it is like, I think everyone mirrors that across from senior management all the way through the whole floor, the whole sales floor. Like everyone's bought into that, like, let's make people's lives easier below us and let's get further together. Like that philosophy, I think, underpins everything that we're trying to do.
I completely agree. And I think just to echo that, when we're obviously in my role, it's bringing people into the business. That is something we speak about all the time. It's like, what does LHi do differently? And I'm like, we're genuinely so in it with you. Like, we just ask you're just as invested in your own career as we are with you, because like you said, there's so many other leaders in the business that have been with us since graduate level and have now gone on to have these careers where they're opening up offices or opening up new regions or new markets. And there's ample opportunity for everyone, but you've got to also meet us in the middle, I guess.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
part of
yeah.
it. And knowing what that work ethic looks like can go a really long way. And just bringing it on, Jim Denning, our CEO, often talks about like LHi Stardust, but the other way I was describing it is, I was speaking with Francis earlier, and we were having the conversation around, typically when you speak with people who come into an agency, they normally only actually stay in recruitment agencies for maybe 3, max 5 years, whereas we've got people who are consistently hitting that 5-10 year tenure, which is really exciting. And it's, everyone, like I said, is really different to what they take from it. But for you, how would you describe what LHi does differently for you that makes you want to stay here for perhaps another 5 years?
Yeah. It's great. Like, there's so many different things. Like you can jump on like the culture, the feeling of the business. Like it's hard to find anyone across the business who's unhappy coming into work every day. That's like one foundation tick box, right? I think if you can come into a space, an office space, or your working environment where you really actually enjoy the people that you work with. But I think we've always been a business that like takes people's like opinions like seriously. Like you take people's thoughts from any level, from C1 right up to like, how can we build an environment where everyone's happy? And it's difficult. Like that's super difficult. And you talk about like the stardust. Like I think it's just that feeling. Like when you go into different offices or when you go in, it's the same LHi, but there's always something slightly different in the air. Like there's always something where I suppose people are like just bought into the business because the business like understands, like has a meaning, like to go over what they want and what they're looking for and try and help them on that journey. But like making decisions from the ground up a lot of the time and feeding that back and people taking that on board. But also the other things, like the business is always, like I said earlier, right, like they've always pushed me personally out of my comfort zone, giving me ample opportunity where I don't have to look anywhere else. Like everything that I need's here. Like have got a clear pathway. I'm really happy. I've been given every opportunity. And maybe when I wasn't like too happy and too like becoming quite comfortable in my role, the conversation started happening from senior management down to me, like, what do you want next and what does next look like? And there wasn't a minute where I've been sat there for more than a few months at a time without what's that next hurdle I've got to cross or what's that next
Like, what's
challenge I need
next?
to solve. Yeah,
Yeah,
so and I
100%.
think that keeps people bought in and keeps people wanting to keep going and pushing further, right?
Yeah, definitely. And looking ahead, one thing, we've spoken a lot about younger you, which is really great, but I think 2 years ago, I think Jim's gonna
Yeah.
get that wrong, started bringing in the whole future you concept. Like, how can we contribute to all of our employees' futures as well? We want people to, when they do, because no one's going to be here forever and ever, but when they do, we want them to have really positive feedback and feel like LHi had a really positive impact on their professional and personal development in some way. When you think about your future you, like, what are your goals, or how do you see your future you evolving with the business?
Yeah, so this actually recently came up in my promotion presentation as well, right? And it's I think because there was so much change over the last couple of years for me, right? Like stepping out of that comfort zone, like really struggling in that first 18 months of like not speaking the language, not having a client on board, trying to like get this business started and get it up and running in terms of our onshore business in Germany. like now for me is like really just focused on making like my business as successful as it can, right? Making sure that the people underneath me have a clear pathway of where they can get to. Are they still enjoying the day job? Are they, were given opportunity that I was given, right? So it's less goal focused. It's more like, okay, we've built something now. Like how far can we push it? Like how big can we get? How good can we get? And can we become that number one leader within the onshore space in Germany? And like, can I keep building the team? Are the team motivated and happy? And I think that's right. That is my goal. Like when I wake up
It's
every day,
so
like,
exciting. It's a big
yeah,
goal. It's a
it's a
really
big goal.
great goal. And it's one that's not ending. Like that is something that will continue to develop as the years go
Yeah.
on, which is constantly contributing and constantly giving you all options. I think that's a really great goal to have. And you mentioned there like the first 18 months was like really tough. Everyone, like we said earlier, really, really struggles with it. For anyone looking to come into recruitment or anyone who's looking to change markets, what advice would you give to those young professionals or graduates, or like we said, just people looking to change markets, maybe have some experience? What advice would you give to them with coming into this market and making that move?
Does it fit with what you want?
Yeah.
Again, like, is it, you don't want to take an opportunity like that unless you can see a future with it and it aligns with your future personal goals, right? I think there's no point doing it for the sake of doing it. If there's also people in the business and other businesses where they're doing really successful in the market, don't have to make the change. But it's been one of the most rewarding things that I've done, right? And I think challenging myself, and it's a high pressure environment, you need to deliver. But like taking yourself out of your comfort zone and pushing yourself to do that, the rewards, like monetary regardless, like to your own personal development, to look back and be like, okay, I've managed to do it. Like what advice would I give? Make sure that fits with what you want, but also it's be very clear. Yeah, be very clear on what you're going to get out of it, and be like open communication with people across like people who've done it before. Like pick up the phone, speak to people like Steve, speak to people like who have made that journey out of their like doing really well in their currency, and ask them why they did it and what they've got out of it. And I think if you can share that idea even with Ben, Jim, Botti, any office leader or anyone across the business who's made that jump themselves, I'm sure they would all say like, look, it's the best thing I've done personally. So go find out the reason why from people who have done it, and find out from them directly, and if that fits with what you want, and then it's sure the answer becomes pretty clear and quickly and correct, right?
Definitely. I think as well, there's a lot of comfort in the fact that so many people have gone on to do it and it's been a success. Do you know what I mean? Like it's rare to find where people have gone on to do it and they're like, oh, I had no support and I was just flying around trying to figure it out. Like it's all hands on deck. I know Steve, for example, had like Botti, Ben, Jim, like reaching out to him all the time because a lot of people have been in that position as well. And a lot of people, even in London, we just were discussing, we're opening up the US region from London office from like our contract tech perspective. So there's always going to be new opportunities. And I think for you to be able to grow, you sometimes just have to say yes to things that make you uncomfortable. But
100%.
totally with what you say, it's got to be aligned with what you want as well.
Yeah, but like the business, if you're going to do it, like there's obviously a long conversation before you make a move like that. There's so many different moving parts that everyone will be involved. Everyone's invested in it. Like if we've made the move to make it happen, you see all the stories of people going up from London. Like Dom's just gone out to Texas, right? Like really enjoying it. Like there's there's countless stories, right? I'm one of many people in the business who've stepped out to do something slightly different. But like if you get to a point where that decision is about to be made, like you're doing it for a reason. If the whole business invested in it, you're making that decision, hopefully to better yourself, but also better the business, right? So everyone's invested, everyone wants you to do well. You're gonna have the support around you to be able to make it a success. It's just it's easy to say that now. I didn't think I thought that when I first did it, right?
Like when you're in it, this is so hard.
Yeah.
You've made it out the other side though, so it's fine.
Yeah, for now.
And we spoke as well earlier just about, being able to have those conversations with like the board members, and like I think a lot of what we do is employee led, like even from the beginning, and it's something that's continuing on now with obviously the recent announcement of us being an EOT business. So it's really interesting speaking with everyone in the business, like what that means to them, what their understanding of it is, what they're excited about, because again, it's not something that every agency or business offers. It's something that's quite unique, and something that definitely helped us all come together a bit more as a business. For yourself, what does working for an EOT business, what does that mean to you?
It literally follows on from, I think we're quite like this anyway, right? We're
Yeah.
super like bought in company where everyone's on the same hymn sheet, like going towards the same goal. But I think it just like cultivates that even more. You move away and step away maybe from like an archaic view where like to do lots of money, it's super important, and that's success. Like for now, everyone's like even more has skin in the game where like we're part of something where our view will be taken into consideration. Like we have a voice about how the company is gonna like what's the strategy gonna look like, how it's gonna be run. Like we actually own like the future of what we're trying to do. And I think that's although I definitely felt like we were like that anyway, even in like the 5 years that I've been here over like since the announcement, I think everyone's just like even pulled further together, and it's less about like individuals providing like great accounts or doing really well. It's moved much more to like, okay, how far can we go as a business? Everyone's leaning in the same direction, like pushing in the same direction, and it just has created like just fostered that culture we already had, but I think just made it more apparent for everyone. Like I think everyone's more bought in, more together, um and we're all on that journey together. But also what I love about it is like we have a say on where that journey's going. It's not up to some external influence.
Empowered. Yeah.
Exactly, right. And I think yeah, I think that accommodates everything in terms of like it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's great.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I think it's really empowering for people because it is just like if you come into recruitment, you're naturally going to be a bit more like entrepreneurial anyways, because it is having your own business within a business, but being able to then have a say on the future and like you said, not having other people coming us and telling us you need to change this, you need to change that. It just makes you feel like you've got control and ownership of your future, which plays into so
Hmm.
much of what we're working towards the business, which is really exciting. Last and final question. We obviously are constantly hiring across the business because everyone's doing so well, which is really exciting. But if we were to be interviewing a graduate, because typically we are looking at graduates coming into the business, give us a quick sales pitch, if you will, on opportunities within your team and why people should join. Your USPs, give me all.
Nice. Of course. Well, obviously extremely biased.
I've done it,
uh,
don't worry.
like from my point of view, we've like the just demonstrates in what the people in my team have done this year, right? I think stories of Hamid and Joel, like they started with me a year ago, and I've got actually Joel's C3 promotion this afternoon, right? Like
Oh,
that,
exciting.
yeah, it's really exciting to watch him, like not only from a recruitment standpoint, grow and develop on that side, but as a person, like, it's completely different to when he first, stepped into the office. Um, we've done like we've done some hard yards to get where we are now. Like the foundations are firmly on. Like we've had our best ever year. Like we're one of the best performing teams across the group. But we've got so much more to do. Like it's never ending, which is also the beauty of it, right? I think we've got the right foundations. We're set up for success. There's plenty of opportunity for future for me, right, to have senior leaders in my team to go up the ramps really quickly. It's what Hamid and Joel are both pushing for. Like Ethan's done a fantastic job to get to M1 in such quick time that he's done it as well within my team. Like there's just clear route for progression within my team. But like
Yeah.
we work with some unbelievable companies across Germany, like all the big household names, some really cool companies that people want to work for and we love working for. And I think that's that bit about like actually like makes me interested in the markets, working with some really cool people and working with some cool clients and taking that to market. But from a personal point of view, I've had lots of C1s join my team, and like, I'm pretty good at taking everyone from a C1 through the ranks. So I think you'll be in safe hands if you're coming to join us on our journey, right?
100%. And can you give us any intel to Piper Maddox against, I guess, how we compare on the market to competitors? Because tell me if I'm wrong in saying this, but I'm sure when I first joined, Piper Maddox was quite new, but it was the first of its kind in Bristol or maybe even the UK specifically to be focusing on that region. So that's obviously built out quite a bit. So do you feel like we're naturally ahead of the curve in a sense because we've already got those established relationships from all the years prior?
Yeah, like that's a really good question actually, because yeah, when I first started, there wasn't,
Yeah.
everyone's moved into the market at the moment. It is what it is. I think everyone's slightly different in not only the networks but their approach to the market, and generally thinking, yeah, like we've been there, we've done that. We've got the legacy of we're still operating like one of the best units out in the US. We've now doing that and done that successfully across Europe. We're getting bigger and better. We've hired some unbelievable people, especially across London and Bristol. We're getting countless calls from clients ringing in, hearing about our story in the market, and that's 5 years of hard work to get there, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, again, very biased, but we are the market leader across Europe in
Yeah.
terms of what we're doing, and people recognise that from a candidate and a client perspective, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, it can only go up, right?
Exactly.
It's got
So I
to
was like,
stay
I'm
at the
definitely
top.
going to bring this up. I'm sure it's mentioning. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Matt. It's
That's all
been
right.
great speaking with you. I will link your LinkedIn profiles and contact details. So if anyone is interested in reaching out to Matt about opportunities, you can do so directly and also with myself. Thank you so much for your time.
It's all right. Always a pleasure, mate.